I saw this video and I thought it looked interesting, so let's watch it. Let's talk about it.
This is not sustainable. You might have noticed a trend amongst modern social media influencers. They are getting incredibly rich. Just 10 years ago, the very top
I'm starting to believe that that's not true anymore. I think that we think of social media influencers as being millionaires, multimillionaires even, and making $1 million plus a year. But I think that most social media influencers at this point are more in the hundred thousands a year. 100,000 maybe, even like 120, 130,000, especially if they're doing things with their money to try to make more money in the long term. That's more the salary that they're making.
YouTubers on the platform were mostly filming out of their modest apartments, doing average skits, and living lives pretty similar to you or I. Almost all of them had regular day jobs and posted to the internet because they found it fun, or at the very most, because it could earn them a little extra side money. Contrast that with today, where some influencers have the same reach, notoriety, and income as top athletes, singers, and movie stars.
Well, now we're seeing order of magnitude issues here. This is what we're talking about right now. Jake Paul, I think that's Jake. I'm not sure which one of the Paul brothers. I think it's Jake. He's not your average YouTuber. He's not your average celebrity YouTuber even. He is levels above that. In every order of magnitude that you go up, you're going to see an increase of 10x. You know, PewDiePie at one point, I think, announced that he had made $14 million in 1 year. And at the time, he was probably the only social media influencer who was making that kind of money. The majority of people were an order of magnitude below him, making maybe $1 million a year, but probably not. I mean, I'm talking majority. Sorry, the next tier down. If he was one, there might have been 10 people below him who were also making $1 million a year, maybe. And then below them, there were 100 people making $100,000 a year or whatever. And then below them, there were 1,000 people making tens of thousands of dollars a year.
As this new breed of celebrity has grown even wealthier, they have been able to broadcast even more elaborate content, whether it be showing off their new mansion, giving away millions of dollars to strangers, or simply spending more money on the production of their videos.
And it makes kids think that this is what the goal is. In this room, you see 4 people. You know who one of them is, unless you really, really, really watch his content. I only know Mr. Beast here. These people are not making what Mr. Beast makes.
Videos. But this whole ecosystem is predicated on something of a marketing gold rush. It is a unique and delicate blend of circumstances that made houses like this possible, and that easy money situation is coming to an end faster than these people might expect.
Yes.
So it's time to learn how money works, to find out how the influence bubble will pop and what.
And I can tell that this is true because as it becomes easier and easier for me to get into the space of making YouTube videos, I know that I'm not somebody who has these giant capabilities and skill sets I'm not someone who I think deserves this kind of money. So because of that, I know that there must be some kind of bubble that's collapsing currently.
What it will mean once it does. In the late 2000s, companies had a problem. A key demographic for consumer goods, people between the ages of 18 and 35, were becoming harder to place into neat little marketing buckets.
Yep.
If you can't pin down the specific preferences of a group, they are very hard to market towards. And to make matters worse, younger people were watching less television.
There's everything from furries to bronies to gamers to WoW gamers to book girls to just everything. Our age group is not defined by oh wow, they really love television. That's not the way that it is anymore. Our access to knowledge about different things is so high now that people can fracture off into all these tiny little groupings now.
And listening to less radio, which were, at that point, the foundation of consumer advertising.
Totally.
You might think, oh well, 18 to 35-year-olds don't have any money anyway.
Nope.
So what's the problem? Well, the problem is that while this group may have less income and wealth than older generations, they spend more of what they have, and they spend it more compulsively. They do this because most of them are not yet burdened with financial responsibilities of raising a family.
And also because they're getting into new things every single day of their lives.
Of their own, and are
getting
making
into
their
a new
own
thing
money for
costs
the
money.
first time in their lives. So, accessing this demographic was hard, but potentially very lucrative. Fortunately for the marketers around the world, a new group of pseudo-celebrity was being formed on microblogs and the early video sharing sites of the internet. These people were perfect for brands who wanted to tap into this difficult market of consumers. The marketeer's job was easy. Their consumer base was already compartmentalized by interest. If you wanted to appeal to young mothers, work with young mommy bloggers. If you wanted to sell tools, give a video mechanic a set for free to use on their new fancy YouTube channel. This all got even easier when companies like YouTube introduced advertising features that allowed marketeers to bypass a direct relationship with the creator entirely, and instead choose from a wide variety of parameters to show their ads using ad.
This was a really big thing for marketing, is being able to target people with the advertisements, because you can learn so much about somebody by taking their online history and using algorithms to place them with like-minded people, seeing what those like-minded people spend money on, and then showing that stuff to the people that you've placed in those buckets. And this is what marketing has been doing for a long time, but as we've gone further and further down the path of having all these fractured states, there's so many factors involved. Say before, placing someone into a marketing bucket might have taken 10 factors. Well, those 10 factors were easy to hold in one person's brain, so one person could come up with a marketing campaign that reached all of those people. But now, say it takes 1,000 factors, all of a sudden, that's really difficult to link together. I could have such a difference in opinion from someone who plays World of Warcraft, even though I also play World of Warcraft. I might feel completely differently. I might play 10 other games. They might only play that one. I might like XYZ YouTuber. They might like ABC YouTuber. I might use Instagram and TikTok. They might use Facebook and Twitter. It's really difficult now to pin people into these really specific buckets, so we have to use computer algorithms in order to do that. And that's why people were making a bunch of money off of them when they were aggregating large amounts of people into one place.
AdSense and other similar offerings. Internet influencer marketing was also really cheap. A large company could reach out to 100 million viewers for less than $100,000.
Yep.
The same kind of
And that's a
exposure on
great
commercial
deal.
television would likely
But
cost
100 grand is a
millions.
lot for someone with a
Smaller
million
companies could
views.
also get in on the action too. The internet was not limited to a few large TV channels or radio stations, so a small business could work with a small influencer to promote their product on a modest budget. But all of these other
Totally. If you find someone who has 10,000 followers, $1,000 will probably be a big deal to them. And as a company, getting to 10,000 people who might like your product, even if only 1,000 of those people like your product, and if only 100 of those people like or go and make a purchase from you, you've probably made at least your money back.
benefits were insignificant compared to the greatest selling point of early influencer marketing. People trusted influencers. If a
Totally.
first-time parent is reading a mommy
Nowadays, when you're on TikTok, I can't tell you how many advertisement-based posts that I just skip immediately. If I see that thing in the bottom left-hand corner, or if I get far enough into the video to where I realize, it's overnight, I'm skipping the video.
blog about how to get their children to stop crying, they are already looking to that blogger for their wisdom on the subject of raising a baby. If the blogger recommends a certain type of formula or stroller, it is going to have a huge advantage over the competition, because it is being recommended by someone that the parents trust. The same trust extends to all influencers in any other specific niche. A 2016 study found that Twitter users trusted their favorite online influencers nearly as much
Definitely.
as their close personal friends. And
I
that
could totally
was
see that.
Twitter. One can only reasonably imagine that the level of trust would be higher on a platform that is not a cesspool of people's brain farts.
Yeah, places like YouTube are the top tier. Specifically, YouTube, I would say, actually, is the top tier for people trusting the influencers they follow. For every minute you spend with someone's opinions, you become that much more infatuated with that person, and you trust that person that much more. And if they are consistent with their opinions and you can follow that through line, the more and more that you start to fall in love with them, the more that you'll believe them and trust them. So then if they recommend you NordVPN or whatever, you're going to feel like, oh, I like this person. This product might be a product that I should use. It's the same thing with Twitch. It's why Twitch is becoming one of the giant marketing hubs of the internet, because you spend so much time with these people. And if you stick around, if you put in 1,000 hours with that person, you must really trust them at that point.
So on the surface, influencer marketing is a dream to companies. It can be tailored to target specific audiences, it is cheap, and it is effective. So why is this a bubble? The first problem is that it's not that cheap anymore.
No.
As more businesses rushed in to capitalize on the promises that influencer marketing offers,
Some of these deals that influencers are getting now are $100,000+ deals. I mean, it's insane. I once heard a really popular YouTuber, CGP Grey, say that one advertised video is worth multiple months of his Patreon, and he has tens of thousands of people that give him money directly on Patreon. One video with an advertisement built in is worth more than that. Think about that. I mean, you're talking, if a minimum of $5 per each one, $10,000 or 10,000 times 5, that's $50,000 a month. Multiples of that, 200 to 250,000. One advertised video of his is worth more than $250,000. That's insane.
More competition there was for influencers at all levels. Some YouTubers now charge over $500,000 for an ad placement on a single video. That is still slightly cheaper than commercial television for a similar number of views, but not by much. Early on, influencer marketing was dominated by small, agile businesses that were willing to take the risk on a new form of advertising. Today, large companies and businesses backed by endless amounts of capital dominate the space. Some businesses with enough investment backing don't even care if they spend more on advertising than they gain in revenue, because their investors are primarily concerned with seeing business growth. Think about the brands who sponsor your favorite online influencer. Most
businesses are operating at a deficit because they see a future where that deficit won't exist anymore. And that becomes a really interesting thing because you can only go so far in the red before you fail. And I think that's happening to a lot of major businesses. I think that's why we're seeing so many conglomerate businesses show up right now, because these businesses thought that there was going to be a much earlier payoff, or they were hoping at least. I don't think a lot of people think that there actually is. They were hoping that that payoff would come, or they've lied to investors so much that then they get so upside down in their marketing budgets that they have to sell to a company who can actually afford it.
Some of them are new companies with a lot of investor money backing them up. The reason they spend so much money is because this marketing strategy can launch huge businesses practically overnight, but it can also be incredibly risky. I work as an investment banker in Silicon Valley, so I am fortunate enough to have the direct exposure to market dynamics in the startup capital of the world. Let me tell you firsthand that the investment appetite for direct-to-consumer businesses is starting to wane. The channel Modern MBA did a great video on these businesses, so I will leave a link to his video below for anybody who is interested in learning more. If these businesses fail to raise fundraising, then they won't exist to pay millions of dollars every month to influencers across the internet.
Totally.
For now, it's hard to say if or when this will happen, but with increasing interest rates and a slew of...
That's the thing that I find really interesting. New businesses are significantly worse with their money than entrenched businesses are. Businesses that have been around for a long time and have proven that they're successful. As Microsoft buys up more and more companies, there are going to be more and more companies out there spending money in improper ways, and that's bad for people who are trying to aggregate some of that money. People who make their livings off of getting money from people who don't know what to do with their money are going to have a harder and harder time as more and more monopolies accrue. And monopoly is a really inflammatory term, but what else do you call Microsoft buying Blizzard, Activision, and creating this hub of gaming? What else do you call these companies?
High-profile business failures weighing on investors' minds, easy money might not be as easy to come by for the businesses which have been propping up the influencer bubble. The cost of influencer marketing is insignificant compared to the bigger problem that these online celebrities are now facing. People don't trust them anymore.
Nope.
It should have been obvious from the start, but a lot of influencers do not even care or understand what they are promoting. If businesses can pay their fee, they will get their recommendation. I am now a YouTuber, and I can...
That's not what I want to do, you know? I think about that sometimes, about how there are so many people that I still see recommending BetterHelp, even though it's been so scam-ridden over the past few years. And they talk about it like they personally use it all the time, and it's amazing, and it's so great. But apparently it's not for most people, and if they knew that, I feel like they wouldn't promote that business. But they obviously don't, so they're obviously not putting much effort into it because those paychecks keep rolling in. So why would they do something that would actively affect their ability to make money?
Tell you from experience that the hardest part about working with sponsors is simply finding businesses that I feel comfortable promoting.
Totally.
My good friend Richard over at The Plain Bagel was once offered $30,000 to do just one video on a cryptocurrency. Richard obviously declined that offer because it was an obvious pump and dump scheme, but many influencers wouldn't. Richard's channel has just over 500,000 subscribers, so one can only imagine how much these shady operations are offering people with audiences of millions of younger, more impressionable viewers. There have been countless scandals surrounding influencers that have been caught advertising to children.
If you're going to do a scam on people, It better be a payday that's big enough so that if the scam goes wrong and people bring it back on you, that it doesn't matter that it's affected your business. It better be retirement level dollars. It better be millions and millions of dollars so that you could still live in your standard of living for the rest of your life, because it can go so bad. How many disgraced YouTubers have we seen that pulled some crypto scam, or even who's that one guy who was just straight up messaging people and being like, yo, dude, my bank is messed up and I can't get my money out and I really need some money for these funds. If you just send me like $30, dude, I've got you, bro. I'll send you back $120 tomorrow, man. And then that happens and never comes through. And then a week later they message that person. They're like, yo, my bank is still messed up, but listen, man, if you send me another $50, I'll send you $300. It could be tomorrow that I get my money out of the bank, dude. Just insane what's going on.
Promoting failed music festivals and pumping and dumping crypto projects over and over and over and over again. Young people are not dumb, and they can see through influencers who are just saying something to make money without believing what they are promoting.
It's really interesting. You're starting to see younger and younger people be dumb. That's what's happening, because younger and younger people are being targeted. You're seeing now 10, 11, 12-year-olds who are online buying into Andrew Tate's nonsense. You're seeing people who are 8 and 9 trying to make videos about how red food coloring is the problem and we're all sick. And that's because the age of people who are impressionable is going down, because it's the RuneScape effect. When you get scammed, then you understand what a scam is. And as an entire market of 18-year-olds have been scammed already, it has to keep moving down. Before long, you'll see 4-year-olds who know that a greens powder probably isn't going to fix your entire life.
And can prey on the naivety of their audience for a little bit longer. But audiences this young are going to need a parent to do their shopping, and they are going to be harder to fool.
Yep.
In a beautifully ironic twist, the wealth that has been accumulated by top influencers over their careers is also eroding the trust that they once had with their audience.
Steal your mom's credit card. That's what you'll start saying.
When a top influencer was talking about a product in their basic apartment, it felt like they were talking to a peer, or maybe even a friend. Now, as David Dobrik dances around his LA mansion talking about SeatGeek, he just comes across as a celebrity sponsor. People like this struggle to genuinely recommend products because they are so wealthy and famous that they no longer need them. Do you think David needs to get his concert tickets on the resale market, or do you think that he gets invited to these events before tickets even 100%. Go on sale? Some of the savvier influencers will try very hard to convey an image of a normal lifestyle, and maybe that's because they don't care for an ostentatious display of material wealth, or maybe that's because that they know that it helps them better to connect with their audience.
100%.
The clear divide between an online friend and an online celebrity.
I think that that's a big reason for why Asmon hasn't cleaned up his apartment or cleaned up his house and moved somewhere that's really nice. I think it's because he knows that his audience are people who like what he does in that way, and he knows that it will hurt his appearance if he does those things. He recently bought a Mercedes, and I thought that was the funniest thing for Asmon to do, and his dad sort of blew up his spot on a random stream, and that's as you amass all this money, it becomes less and less important for you to keep your audience in your pocket, because you don't necessarily need to get out of them what you needed to get out of them when you didn't have any money. But that's something that you'll see time and time again. And I don't think that it's a bad thing to alienate some of your audience and to grow your life and to become something else. Move on to other things. Stop living in a world that you're not necessarily actually living in. And I don't think that he's a bad person for doing that and for connecting with his audience. I think it's who he is at his heart, and he's just trying to make peace with the person he's becoming and the person he's always been, if that makes sense.
Celebrity was only accelerated during early lockdowns. This shit show, coupled with the distasteful messaging of being #InThisTogether, saw a rapid decline in the public's interest in influencer marketing. Now, not only are consumers losing trust in influencers, but so are businesses. If a business uses an influencer as a spokesperson for their product, they become inextricably linked to that person's reputation. This can be a good thing. If a brand wants to position itself as a fun-loving product for young people, it would do well by working with fun-loving young influencers. But it can also go very wrong as well. Online influencers are far riskier to align with a brand than traditional celebrities.
The amount of young influencers have come out as being pedophiles is astounding. You have to be so careful because you don't know these people. They don't have a PR team behind them. They're not living their lives in a specific way. They're not thinking in that way because they're just random people who happen to pop off.
Traditional celebrities only really appear in carefully curated settings where their managers get to make sure they don't say anything out of line. And even if they do, it is likely to get cut out before being released to the public. Influencers, on the other hand, make their living by broadcasting their entire lives on the internet. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Eventually something bad is bound to happen. Businesses also take on significant risk with influencers because of other businesses. If an influencer takes on sponsorship from one brand that turns out to be fraudulent, then logical questions will be raised as to the legitimacy of all other businesses they promote. So, what does the future hold for our multimillionaire influencer overlords? Well, if the gold rush does come to an end, they are all likely going to make a lot less money. But that's probably a good thing. The days of throwing money at online personalities and hoping for the best may come to an end. But it doesn't mean that the practice is going away entirely. Instead, it will hopefully mean that online marketing can become something better.
This is what we hope for in life in general, right? We hope that things get fixed and that things become more and more honest. At least for me as a person, it really bothers me to see the trend of lying to a large market of people in order to get them to believe lies more easily so that then you can sell products to them that you know are scams already. I do not like the idea of taking advantage of other human beings in order to make a successful career out of. I think that that's a big problem in the world currently. It bothers me. For whatever reason, I have a conscience apparently, and it feels awful, the idea of doing wrong in order to make your life better. I don't think that it's worth my life being better to ruin the lives of other people. It just doesn't jive.
Than a cheaper alternative to traditional celebrity endorsements on traditional media platforms. There is nothing wrong with relatable people giving advice that they believe in about products that they understand and getting paid for it. And the metrics will soon make companies realize that this is what made internet marketing great in the first place. Now, if you want to see what a big fat hypocrite I am, go and watch my video where I reveal how much money I made on this YouTube channel after gaining 100,000 subscribers in less than a month. Thanks again for making it possible to keep on learning how money works.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting thing that's going on in the world right now. I think about this all the time. I really do, with the way that influencers work and the way that social media works and the way that content creation works and how all these things are sort of working together to borderline brainwash an entire generation of people. And I don't necessarily think that that's a good thing, obviously. I think that people should be able to think for themselves, and more people are being taken into cults of dissociation and lack of information. And they're being taught at a young age to disregard all research and all information that is based in fact, and to learn ways that are improper of seeing what's real and what's not. They want to teach you to be less able to distinguish between lies and truth so that you are easier to lie to. They want to teach you things that when you're naive enough to believe them, that then you can carry those things with you throughout the rest of your life so that you can continue to be naive and you can continue to be easy to fool. That's the goal. I really believe that it is. Anyways, guys, like that video, subscribe to the channel, It's good. It's good content. It's good. I enjoyed watching it.